Came out either on Friday or Saturday. I can't remember what day it was.
Lost in the shuffle of Super Bowl weekend.
It really was. And I thought it'd be good for a Tuesday. Oregon and Oregon State have agreed to a multi-year agreement on playing the Civil War football game.
Let's keep it going, baby.
And I'm just going to tell you straight up, no. Not interested.
Not today.
I don't even know who this is for anymore. I think both fan bases, like, there's jokes that fly in this, right? Like Duck fan, well, that's an easy win, so sure. And Beaver fan says no, might come off a certain way about not wanting to lose by 30 points. Sure, okay. I would also argue, like, what is the point of this? This game means nothing anymore. They don't play in the same conference. It's fake. They play in September. It's weird.
We don't even have the original name of the game anymore. We can't call it that for some dumb reason.
Yeah, they just call it the game.
The game.
The
rivalry.
Everybody outside of our state, by the way, that refers to this calls it still the Civil War because they don't know that locally we got really woke. But
that memo didn't reach them.
It did not. And I'm like legitimately asking, what is the point of this? I hate this, and I think this is just for gate money.
Yeah. I think the reasoning on Oregon State's side is that they would argue they want the game for one, attendance sales, to your point on gate money, selling tickets when they get the game in Corvallis. When you play against Oregon, you know it's going to be likely a nationally televised game. I think the game this past year was on Fox, if I'm not mistaken.
It was.
So you get a nationally televised game, and so that's a big deal, and that's a big part of your TV revenue and your TV contracts and all that. That would be their side of it. And I would argue Oregon's side of it is probably guilt. It's probably the guilt of, like, yeah, we know we did you dirty, and let's try and keep this thing going. I agree 100% with you, though. I don't really know many fans on either side of it anymore, to be honest with you, that are clamoring for this. And this is one argument where, you know, I push back from time to time on the whole notion of Oregon shouldn't have gone to the Big Ten or they shouldn't have acted in their best interest. Like, Oregon made the best decision for them athletically long term. To be in a bigger brand, to be in the Big Ten, the money that's going to come with it, the platform that comes with it. But at the same time, it can also be true that they did screw Oregon State over, and they were a massive part of that. And so I do think in this debate, at least for me, now some Oregon fans might not agree with me, that's fine. I defer this entire thing to Oregon State. Like, this to me, this ball is in their court. If I'm the University of Oregon and Oregon State reaches out to me and says, we want to play the game, I owe it to you to play the game. But if they say respectfully, like, look, screw you, you left for the Big Ten, we don't want anything to do with you anymore, we say, no problem, we totally understand that. You go schedule somebody else, we'll go schedule somebody else, and we don't need to keep playing the game. This is one where I think Oregon State fan is 100% right to be pissed that they're still playing it, not happy that the rivalry is going to continue, and angry about the fact that it seems like a cash grab when the two programs are going to continue to reach different plateaus, and you're essentially offering yourself up as a sacrificial lamb every year.
Well, and I just reached the point where it's such a selfish sport and league now that, like, Oregon State is better served to just schedule a patsy that they think they can get an easy W against to boost the resume. And you can not like that all you want and not want to watch, you know, fill-in-the-blank State University that you know is probably going to lose by 20.
Yep.
But that's really the way this is. It's designed for you. They have told us abundantly clear, schedule doesn't really matter. Don't lose too many conference games. And if you go 3-0 in non-conference, we don't care who you beat.
Yeah.
So play the game. And this is not, you're not playing the right game by doing this. Again, this is all for money. This is for TV exposure. Nothing more. The people who try to sell you that this is about passion and rivalry, they're lying to themselves when they tell you that. Maybe other Beaver fans or Duck fans have a different feel of that. I'm sorry that it got to this. I didn't want this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer the old conference to still be a thing. In fact, I'd prefer it to be the Pac-10. Kick Utah, Colorado out. I don't care. But Swag, where are you at? You grew up with this. You had the toilet bowl in your life.
Yes.
We didn't. Like
1983, I believe.
Where are you at on this game continuing?
Right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense for Oregon State to keep this on the schedule. My concern is that if somewhere down the road all of college football shifts again, which who knows, or Oregon State and Washington State, they get this new conference up and going, they're able to build themselves back up, and they want the game back, it becomes a lot more difficult to get it back, I think. If you keep it going, it could turn back into something. And I don't know where I am on just.
So they're going to be in the same conference when you say turns into
I-
something?
I don't know.
Or just Oregon State
Just
turns
where
into like a
Oregon
Boise
State's on a
State
bit
level
more of
and
a
it's a
stable
competitive game.
level
Yeah.
platform, and you could see Oregon State from time to time. Right now it's way out of balance. I totally understand your point. They're in two different places, and this doesn't make a lot of sense right now.
Recruiting and the NIL part of Oregon, like just being really raw honest with you, these games should never be close at any one point.
No.
I was not surprised by what happened last year at Reser Stadium.
Well, we talked ourselves into it a little bit because if you remember, Oregon wasn't out of the gate very hot this year. They almost lost to Idaho.
Yeah, okay. But I think I
but
remember
like I said, I think in the
Oregon
short
was
term,
gonna
I
blow
see
them
your
out.
point, and it's not going to be fun for Beavers fans to, go get pummeled like that here in the near future. But in the long-term nature, if you see it, somehow college football, everything sort of settles maybe, and the Beavers can take all this money and they put a conference together and start building back up to where that new conference has some cachet, some credibility. You're able to maybe sneak a team into the college football playoff every year, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but unless you're ever in the same conference, you're never recapturing that rivalry.
No, but do you want to let it go? I fear if you let it, my fear is if you let it go, you'll never get it back. And if you want it to somehow be there, and this is where maybe my age and understanding.
No, I appreciate the insight.
My worry isn't in the immediate future, but if you let it go, and everybody starts doing their own thing and goes down the road, and at some point you want to bring it back, it's a lot more difficult to bring it back.
Yeah, I would say I totally understand that argument. I get it. And I think the hope long term would be that Oregon State could build themselves into an elite program at the conference level that they're at. I mean, Oregon just beat Boise State for the first time ever in the history of their program this last year, and they probably should have lost that game. So I think that would be your most optimistic view of it, is that they turn into a program at that level. You're a thorn in the side. It's your big Super Bowl every year. You get up for it. When you get them at home, it's going to be tough for Oregon to go in there and win. How long does it take you to get there? I don't know the answer to that. I also feel like there's a little bit of a middle ground, and I know the other things don't matter as much as football. I felt like a little bit of a middle ground there is not continuing the football game and continuing to play in every other sport.
I think they'll play in all the other sports
I'd be down
because
for that.
of
I'd be down for that.
logistics
and
costs, and it's more competitive, and like the conference affiliation doesn't, like Oregon State almost beat Oregon in basketball this year.
Oregon State's better in baseball. They were competitive in basketball. Like I think
like
you've
all
hit
that,
the sweet
like
spot.
that's the hey, it's Oregon State rivalry week, but in football we don't.
It's a different juggernaut. It just is.
It
Those
just
are
is.
different. It's almost separate from the university sports in general, those two things. Like basketball, more well-funded in hoops at Oregon, but because of the numbers, you can play at Gill in those atmospheres and not play well and either win by one or you lose.
Yeah.
Baseball, Oregon State's a juggernaut. We know that. It's going nowhere. Oregon has built that thing up pretty respectfully in the last 2 years. That could be a great rivalry. All the other sports, soccer, gymnastics, whatever. Okay. Football is almost entirely separate of the other sports in college.
Yep.
And for the most obvious reason, we know why. So maybe it's defeatist to sit here and tell you they're not beating Oregon in the next 5 to 10 years. I just don't think that they are. And that's just my opinion. And so I saw this news. I immediately reacted with the guy in Kansas City with a thumbs down boo. I have no interest in watching this game. I will for the show's sake, but I don't really have any interest in it. And, if I was talking to a bunch of Beaver fans, I'd say, I hope you speak with your wallets and show them that we don't care about this anymore. It's sad.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's here, but I think it's here.
It was a really good crowd last year. One of their bigger ones of the season, one of the more expensive tickets of the season.
Also, a lot of Oregon fans were at that game.
A lot of Oregon fans were at that game,
noted.
too. One of our Beaver P1 said, my issue with keeping it going is discrepancy. If OSU can get back to making solid money, I'm okay with it. Otherwise, forget it. If OSU had gotten themselves into the Big 12, I would be okay with it.
Yes.
But with non-major conference
Same.
money, it won't work. And here is the double whammy of that, because I agree 100% with that take, and I would if I were a Beaver fan. That's exactly how I would feel. And I'm not arguing that this is the entirety of it. How much do games like this and, let's say, the Apple Cup for Washington State and Oregon State potentially help sweeten a little bit of a TV deal? of we have a guaranteed game every other year that you're going to be able to air on your networks. ESPN doesn't have the rights to Oregon football anymore, and so now you get to throw an Oregon game on your network
if ESPN,
if they get involved with the future Pac-12 television deal. And I'm not saying that's the only reason you would get $10 million a year, but the more attractive games that you can have on your slate, the more attractive you are as a conference.
They'd probably switch rights though, wouldn't they? Like some years it's on ESPN, some years it's on Fox.
They'd probably flip around, I would imagine. Yeah.
Well, the home team always owns the TV rights.
Okay. So if
but the whole point would be the Pac-12 could have CBS, Fox, and ESPN.
Yeah, right.
We don't know how many will.
partnership.
Maybe all three of them do. I'm just saying some of ESPN network doesn't have rights to Oregon or Washington games anymore.
I mean, I'm sure that's part of this, but also I guess I'm not versed or educated enough to tell you that one game a year changes things financially for them. I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't.
And the other follow-up I would ask, that's I know we're way against it.
Yeah.
How many other big-time programs can you go find that are willing to play home and homes with you? Would be the other follow-up I would have.
We just got one with Wake.
You did just get one with Wake. Jake Dickert's coming to town. You better watch out, okay? Here comes Dickert. But that would be the other question, is that you want big games to sell your fans on. You want a ticket that people say, oh, I got to get that ticket. So-and-so is going to come in. And if you could book other games other than Oregon, I would tell you, by all means, go do it, and let's get rid of this game.
Oregon's, without a doubt, the biggest team you could get to come to your stadium, I would imagine, in a home and home. I'd also respond, is it important to sell that to your fans, or is it more important to say, we got 9 wins because we had patsies?
Yeah.
And that got us to 3 by itself, and we did okay in our conference.
Good.
I don't know. I don't know where the majority of fans are at. I just tell you the attendance for Oregon State this year in that game, there were a lot more Duck fans than people expected. And I just saw this news over the week, and this was from Nick Daschel, OregonLive.com, who also had another report that I'll tell you about on the other side. But I just saw this, and I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But they're going to do it anyway. Multi-agreement with Oregon State football.